Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Superman the Triangle Years. This episode will be looking at the Triangle issues for 1991, 15 through 17. That's Action Comics number 665, Superman number 56, then Adventures of Superman number 479, and Action Comics 666. So, Action Comics number 665, this is the first issue of Superman back after the Time and Time Again storyline, the storyline that found Superman jumping through time, and though he's been gone from his own point of view for 5 months, he hasn't been gone that long in Metropolis terms, so he flies back to Metropolis. And by the time he gets back into the atmosphere, he's running out of oxygen. This Superman did need to breathe. So, and he gets back and is reunited with Lois. Tells her about his adventures in time. And everything seems pretty good with them at this point. Lois seems to be adjusting to the idea that Clark is Superman. So, then the story for this issue, the main story for this issue, it deals with a new villain, Baron Sunday. And Baron Sunday is imprisoned in Stryker's Island and uses the powers of voodoo to kill and then animate other prisoners to try and break himself out of jail. And when Superman goes to stop the super zombies, they're fairly strong and of course magical, so Superman has a rough time, ends up using electricity to shock the systems of the zombies, and the magical feedback leaves Baron Sunday in a bit of a coma. And then the zombies turn out they weren't really dead. I don't know if the Comics Code was enforcing it at this time, but the Comics Code used to have a rule you couldn't have the undead in comics. So that's why we have Morbius the Living Vampire. So that may have been their way of getting around this from Superman with these zombies. They weren't actually ever dead. They were just being controlled by Baron Sunday's magics. So, fun little one-shot issue. Really neat cover. And then the Red Glass trilogy begins. The Red Glass trilogy ran through the June issues of Superman, and we'll take a look inside. So this storyline really throws you right into the action as Superman goes to stop a mugging, and not only are the muggers terrified of him, but so is the victim. She's like, please, just leave me alone. And trying to figure out why everybody seems to be afraid of him, he finds the Museum of Dead Villains, a museum dedicated to all the villains Superman had killed in his day of wrath. So he starts unraveling this mystery that apparently a while back he had gone and killed all of his villains and then left the Earth. And so now people are terrified of him, and why has he returned to Earth? He's confronted by Lois, who is in a wheelchair, and when he's talking to her, he starts to use his X-ray vision on her, but instead uses heat vision and fries her in the wheelchair. So Superman flies off, figures Lex Luthor must be behind this, goes and Luthor is amazingly alive. He had found out from the museum staff that Lex Luthor had paid to build the museum, so he knew that Lex Luthor had something to do with this. But Lex Luthor's stuff is getting repossessed. He's broke. And he blames Superman, of course. And he says how he gave kryptonite to his greatest enemy, Jimmy Olsen, and ends up Lex Luthor tears a face mask off. He's actually Jimmy Olsen, and here's kryptonite. I'm going to kill you now. So, and actually, this issue has a backup story of the Newsboy Legion. There were some backup stories during this time following them, and that was a pretty fun little read. So, Red Glass continues in Action Comics, and, starts over here. It continues over here in the Adventures of Superman, and there's Jimmy using the kryptonite on Superman, reveals that he's been Superman's greatest enemy since Superman killed his wife, Lois Lane. And there's Jimmy and Lex Luthor gloating that, you set yourself up as a god, but now us two regular guys are going to kill you. And Superman blacks out. And he's unconscious for a little bit. Then wakes up, and he is in a ruined metropolis. And amidst the ruins of Metropolis, he finds Booster Gold is still alive. And with his last breath, Booster Gold points at him, "You're a murderer. You're a monster." So, looking through the ruins, he thinks he finds somebody alive, and it is a skeleton. And the radio, he finds the radio with the skeleton, and the radio has a voice coming on there. "Houston, this Superman, please come in. This is Houston." And he's trying to figure out what the radio is trying to say as Guy Gardner and Martian Manhunter show up. Turns out the skeleton was Martian Manhunter. Fight ensues. Superman does pretty well against them and beats Martian Manhunter apparently to death. And the U.S. military shows up ready to stop this rogue Superman. So, final part of Red Glass we read as in Action Comics. And Superman versus the Army. He's trying to figure out what's going on. Something's not right. He keeps trying to tell people he's not a killer. But Firestorm and Captain Atom show up to defeat him and blast him pretty good, but he survives and the fight continues. The Doom Patrol show up, same results. Superman wins, and then Wonder Woman shows up, and she, as he's realizing, like, what have I done? I'm going crazy. Wonder Woman's there, and it's like, yeah, it's time for you to pay for it. You know what you need to do. And so Superman takes the kryptonite that she brought with her, gets ready to kill himself with the kryptonite, when the kryptonite turns into some sort of radio from NASA. And then Superman remembers he was working for NASA, went up to the moon, and then suddenly he was back in Metropolis. And all that started happening. NASA had sent him to check some sort of weird signal coming from there, and there he finds this crystalline entity, and the crystalline entity tells him that it was trying to communicate with him, that it's been at Earth, stuck on Earth on Earth's moon for a long time. It was a probe looking for a place for its people. Superman, he tried communicating, but it doesn't speak human well, and apparently its communications went right to Superman's deep subconscious and into his worst fears. Superman helps release the alien, and thanks it for basically helping him to, face some of his worst fears and come to terms with the fears that he deals with. So, and that's the end of the Red Glass storyline. Really a very good story. I don't remember liking it that much when it originally came out, but reading Red Glass this time, it really does go into Superman's subconscious and that fear that what if he loses control, what would happen, and we get to see that it, how horrible it could be. And so it was a fun storyline. Next episode we'll look at Superman the Man of Steel #1 and the return of the Krypton Man. So please subscribe, leave any comments if you have any, and I look forward to doing the next episode.